Hey, welcome back to the Next Step More Than Recovery podcast, and I still have Matt here with me today, and we're gonna do another question here in just a minute. But before we do that, just let me remind you once again about our fall gala coming up on Thursday, October 17th at 7 p.m., 6751 Houston Road. Looks like Houston. Sounds like Houston. That's why we do it in Georgia, Matt. And 6751 Houston Road in Macon, Georgia. And we would love to have you. Again, free event for you. We've had people who have purchased tables, sponsorships. I can tell you right now, the food is going to be great. The testimonies are going to be wonderful. And it's just going to be a great night. And let me tell you right now, the purpose of our gala, right, is to raise money. And that's the purpose of, we can't do anything. Unfortunately, we have to pay power bills and water bills and insurance and salaries, and we have to feed all these men. And so we have to raise money. We do these podcasts, and we don't do those for free. Mark doesn't record these, out of a chair. He's got a new baby at home. He's got to feed that baby. And so remember, this is going to a good cause, and we want you to be there on Thursday night, October 17th at 7 p.m. And I'm looking forward to that night, Matt. It's going to be just a great time. And you can go to our website at www.nextstepmen.org, and there's information there. You can contact Debbie at 478-284-1422. The email address should be on the screen as well, and you can email her and tell her you're coming and tell her you're bringing a friend or 2 friends or 10 friends. We just need to know that, we just need to be able to prepare for that. So what a great night that's going to be. And that leads us, Matt, to our next question for today. And so I have prepared Matt with some questions, and then he does a great job of then throwing them back at me.
Yeah.
So,
well, welcome back to the hot seat.
That's right.
Todd.
Thank you.
Last week we talked about what's one thing you want people to know about Next Step.
Yeah.
Great question. Before I get into this next question, I just want to ask, how many years have you been dealing with men in addiction?
Well, probably close to, I'm at 20 years right now. I'm at 20, we're right at our 20-year point, of one way or another dealing with. Now, part of that was I was in the Air Force for many years. I was more in a volunteer role of doing that. And, but really overall for about 20 years, we've been doing Next Step. Next Step's been in existence for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right. So, but me being involved with Next Step has been almost 10 years now.
Sure.
But so about 20 years of, in one form or another, counseling with, helping, serving in the world of addiction recovery.
Perfect. I mean, and that really leads into the next question.
Yeah.
To get your expertise on it, why do you think it's so hard for people to change from their addiction?
Yeah, that's a great question. And let's not just look at it from the avenue of addiction. It's hard for anybody to change.
Sure.
It's hard for me to change. If you want me to change, I have shared this before. I have 2 consultants that I have hired. And the whole reason I have them is because I knew I needed to change some things and how I was doing things. And I couldn't do it on my own.
Yeah.
I couldn't change. It's hard. It's to change your way of thinking. And so I have 2 consultants who are, just great guys, but brutally honest with me and call me out when I'm falling back into my old ways of doing things, right? The reason that we started doing these podcasts was because of them, right? And getting out of our comfort zones. So change is whether you're an addict or whether you're codependent or whether you're just in life, you're at a point now where you're stuck in a rut. Ruts are comfortable. Addiction is comfortable, even though it might be destroying my life, right? Even though my addiction to methamphetamines might be destroying my life, I'm losing my family, I can't keep a job. It's comfortable, and we'll talk about why that is, right? So we are ruled, and more so today than any other time, I would say, that we can remember. We are ruled by our emotions.
Sure.
We are ruled by feelings. And change doesn't occur until you decide that your thinking is going to overrule your feelings. And we live in a culture, especially today. This is why we have more mental health problems today, more addiction problems today, because we live in a culture, we live in a social media culture, we live in a television media culture that is all feelings based. That's how they draw you in, right? Everything. You and I were talking the other day about the movie The Forge.
Yeah,
and
great movie.
We were talking about how emotional that movie was, and almost over the top emotional, right? Almost you never had a break emotionally in that movie, and that's why people are drawn to it because it's so emotional, right? Well, that's the society that we live in. We live in a feelings-based, emotionally charged society, and when our feelings and our emotions are stronger than our thinking, which they usually are, but throughout history, we've always allowed intellect to kind of move in, and we've put that over top of feelings. Today, feelings are number one. What the facts are number two, right? So I'm going to do, and so let's flesh this out a little bit, right, Matt? So as a person, the Bible tells me that I am a body, soul, and a spirit. I have, right? Now there's a debate as, do you have a body and are you a soul? Yeah. Right? The Bible kind of talks about it both ways. Yeah. It does. So but we'll just, for the sake of this conversation, we'll say that I have a body, soul, and a spirit. Well, the body is the physical part, right? The soul I would call the emotional part. And the spiritual is the connection to God part. Yeah. And if I don't address all three in my attempt to change, I won't change. So if we look at this scientifically, right, when we talk about emotions and we talk about the body, my part of my body is my brain. My brain drives my thinking. Yeah. And my thinking is driven by what I put into my brain. So whatever information I allow into my brain is how I'm trained to think. Yeah. Right. So that information comes in a number of different ways from the time you're a baby, and the things that were around you in your environment, the things that your mom and dad allowed. So from the time you're itty bitty, right, all that information is coming in at you. And so children who were neglected as infants will struggle later. Sure. In life. Children who were stimulated and had lots of good things going into them tend to turn out better because the information going into them was just that. It's the same as adults. What I allow into my mind is what I'm going to think on. Exactly. Right? So thinking then, my thinking, so the brain, the body part of this being the brain, and then the chemicals that are associated with that, we'll talk about that in a second, then stimulate thinking. When I think, I become a chemical machine. My thinking stirs chemicals, physical. So my thinking, which is an immaterial action, right? You can't see thoughts, but we know we think. It's an immaterial action. It then stirs up a material action. So the immaterial stirs up the material. You become a chemical machine, right? And some of those chemicals we call neurotransmitters, hormones, and things like that. They drive our feelings, and then when those feelings occur, it sends that charge to my cells and to the protein that's in my body, and it does all these things. It stirs it all up, right? And so when you think of something and then you act on it, your body records it. Isn't that neat? So you think about something. Those chemical reaction then speaks to your hormones and your neurotransmitters, and you do something, and then your body at a cellular level records that. It's amazing. And it says, oh, I liked that. Yeah. So when you now try to and say you've been doing this for years and years and years and years, say it's in your addiction, right? And now you say, I'm ready to change. Well, when you go to change, and you go to change because your brain has trained your cells. So now your cells in turn go back to your brain and say, wait a minute, we don't do things this way. Exactly. We don't do, so your cells almost gang up on your mind and on your brain and say, hey, wait a minute, Matt, we don't do things this way. You think about when you get angry. That is a thought that then stimulates feelings that then turn around and stimulate, I'm turning red, I'm sweating, I'm shaking, my voice raises, my heart starts rate, right? Right, because your body has recorded this. And so now when that hits again, that way of thinking comes, it says, play.
Yeah.
And you keep doing this, and you keep doing this. So by the time you're 30 years old, Matt, it's almost impossible for your body because it has recorded it over and over and over and over. And when you try to play a different song, it doesn't want to play it.
No.
And your cells gang up on you at a cellular level. Your body gangs up on you and they say, Matt, this is not the way we do things. When this happens, we use. When this happens, we get high. When this happens, we get angry. When this happens, we get nervous. When this happens, we shut down. So my feelings have been driving my cellular level me for so long that it's recorded. So now when I'm ready to do something different, my body
doesn't work.
Right. At first, my body was telling, my brain was, and my mind was telling my body. Now my body, as the older I get, my body's going to start saying, oh, no, this is the way we do things. And subconsciously, you're now doing things that you don't even think about anymore.
Sure.
And that's how habits develop. That's how addictions develop, right? So now when I want to change, and I say, from now on, I'm not using. But what's your body doing?
It's fighting you.
It's saying, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So now your body's going to go through withdrawals. It's going to go through all these things. It's going to feel horrible. You told me earlier you came off caffeine, right?
Sure.
What'd your body do to you?
Those first 9 days were awful. Leg spasms, headaches. I've even had nightmares. It was awful.
Yeah. I was talking to Jesse earlier. We were doing a video with him, and Jesse he just had his teeth ripped out. And he's now got new teeth, right? And he told me, he says, my mental state is different because he got new teeth.
Yeah.
His mental state, because of a physical change, taking out those old teeth and the infections that may have been there and all that stuff, is now a mental change in his body, right? So now you're asking me to change. Well, guess what? I'm not going to change without the power of the Holy Spirit because my body is working against me. My mind is working against me. All the neuro pathways that I have developed over the years that have told me I do this, I do that, I have a bad attitude, I do all these things. That's where my body wants to go. That's where my mind wants to go. It's natural. It's what I do. It's subconscious. It's no longer conscious. It's like breathing.
Sure.
It's like walking. It's like driving. How many times have you driven someplace and zoned out and
you don't even know how you got where you were going? Yes.
I'm home.
Yes.
Wait, I didn't pass.
Yeah.
I was supposed to pass the Pizza Hut and the McDonald's, and I didn't pass. Wait, and you did.
Yeah.
But you were so zoned out, subconsciously, you just went home. Right. That's addiction, and so now, and even it's First Thessalonians tells us that this is a body, soul, and a spirit issue. I have to address changing psychologically, physiologically, and spiritually. If I'm not addressing if I'm not engaging all three, because now this is going to come down to self-control. Because if I want to change, let's say it's smoking. I'm no longer going to smoke. Well, every time I drink a cup of coffee, I smoke. I'm not talking about me, but I'm just saying, right, that. And so now when I drink that cup of coffee, what's my body saying?
I need a cigarette.
I need a cigarette. And now it's not happening.
Yeah.
So your body saying, yo, Mary, or whatever your name is, we smoke at this time. And your body's going to rebel against you. So now I have to implement something called self-control. And we only know that self-control only comes through the power of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
It's a fruit of the Spirit. Self-control is a fruit of the Spirit. So if I don't have the spiritual side now, if I'm not in the Word of God, if I don't have a relationship with the Lord, if I'm not saved, then I'm trying to fight this battle with my flesh.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen.
No.
So it's hard to change because, bottom line, it's hard to change because feelings dominate thinking. And everything is working against us. The body is rebelling against you at a cellular level, right? And you think about your cells and the proteins that are in your body, right? Over time, those things are getting weaker. As you age, they're getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So as you get older, your ability to change on that level becomes weaker and
harder.
I'm 60 years old. I'm 59. I'm almost 60 years old. I have gray hair because the cells in my body are getting weaker.
Yeah.
I have flabbier skin today than I did 20 years ago because the cells in my body, the protein in my body are saying, we're not working as hard as we used to. I can't do it, right? I can't do that. And so everything is working against us. So if you're going to make change, if you're going to change, it's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard. Nobody's going to change. Nobody is going to have a magic pill. I hate these commercials that say, hey, you can do it without, making any change at all. You can lose 20 pounds. No, that's not right. They're just trying to sell you a pill.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and you think about even people. I mean, people make it sound like change is something that's new.
Yeah.
Look at the Bible. It took Jonah a storm and a fish and a plant dying over him for him to even start to change.
Yeah. Right.
His direction.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot to have you to change.
It takes. You think about. You could think about anybody. Peter.
Oh yes.
Paul. Right.
Anybody.
They all struggled to make these changes in their life, and it took time. Time is so critical. Time. Like a guy can come through Next Step and he can spend a year there, but if he doesn't continue to do what we've taught him to do, he will be right back where he was like that.
Exactly. And I know a couple of verses you love. You say them all the time, Romans 12:1 and 2.
Yeah.
And it takes the renewing of your mind.
Right.
Not just your body. Like you said earlier, it takes your body and your mind and your spirit. It takes all three of them.
That's right.
To be renewed, not conform to this world.
Yeah, and if I'm not taking control of my thinking through the renewing of the mind, that's what has to happen. And then taking control of my behaviors. That's the self-control, right? And it's all that's only going to occur through the power of God. All of it, in a secular sense, I can do it for a little bit.
White knuckle it for so long.
I can white knuckle it. And I can grin and bear it, but it's not going to last because it's going to wear me out. That's why Jesus says in Matthew 11, come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest, because you're white knuckling it. You're trying harder to do better. You're still engaging in some addictions in order to keep these addictions away from you. You're still doing this in order to not do that. Your coping mechanisms that you have developed are not healthy. And it doesn't last.
Yeah.
It will not last until there is a surrender to what God says you need to do to change.
So from hearing you, we get in our own way when we try to change.
Yeah.
And it only takes God.
And I'll end with this. I'm not sure how much time we got left, Mark, but we may have a couple minutes. The first time I did public speaking was in college, and I got up there and I froze. I literally froze. I couldn't say it. So the next time that I was asked to do public speaking, what do you think I did? What do you think my mindset was before I got up there?
You're going to freeze?
I'm going to freeze.
Yeah.
So my mind is already going back and cataloging, remembering what it recorded. On a cell, I froze, physically froze, mentally couldn't say anything, right? And so now I've already told myself before I even get up there,
this is it. You're going to freeze.
I'm going to freeze again. Well, I've already failed. My feelings and my past experiences dictated to me what was going to happen. Instead of, last time I froze, but this time I'm not.
Yeah.
Right? And it took everything I had to get up there. And then when I did it, it was fine. And then I did it again, and then I did it again, and then I did it again. And it was, it's placing thinking over feelings.
Yeah.
What I felt was, I'm going to fail again. I'm nervous, I'm sweaty, I'm shaking, I'm all those things, right? But I had to place my thinking over
Amen.
that. And it's the same in anything. And the problem with drug addiction is it's so stimulating. It is so stimulating that when I start to think about using, I'm already there.
You're already there.
My body is just like sex. When I start to think about it, my body starts to prepare for it.
Yep.
Drug addiction is more stimulating than sexual activity. And your body starts to say, oh, we're there. And it starts to prepare itself for it. The body is now, the brain had the thought, the mind had the thought, but then the body at a cellular level started to prepare itself to receive it. And when that happens, it's hard to stop it.
Sure.
Because so if you think you're going to stop that without the power of God, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
It's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
So great question. We could go on all day, and that's why I said it's a little bit, it is hard there's a scientific reason that it's hard to change, but there's a scientific reason and a spiritual reason that we can change, and Absolutely. They have to go together. So again, thanks, Matt. And I know I spent a lot of time talking on that one, and I apologize, but we thank you for being here. If you have any questions on this topic at all, we'd be glad to talk to you. You can reach us again, www.nextstepmen.org. We'd love for you to subscribe to our channel, share this with folks, and certainly help us to reach more people. Have a wonderful day.